Hi everyone, this is Dov Hershkovich. I'm here with Nadia Sotnikova, our UX design. And this is the Pipeline Authoring 15.0 kickoff video. As always, we do have a planning issue underneath our pipeline authoring group, issue number 44. The goals of this milestone, since this is a major version, is implementing some of the breaking changes that we've announced previously this year. And some security, and work on some security issues. I'm gonna talk about those, and besides those improvements, and we will have some carryovers from previous iteration, because in the previous iteration, the team was focusing mainly on security issue, but I'm not going to talk on those issues. In terms of the deprecation, we have one deprecation, which is removing the types and type keyword. So we already gone through the entire process of the syntax deprecation process, where we first announced to our user that a keyword from our syntax is going to be removed. And then we add warning inside the product. And we also collected information of like how many users are using that keyword, which is very helpful then for us to determine whether we want to actually do the removal in this iteration or maybe wait for next year, because we don't want to impact our users. But I think we are in a good state now when we don't have a lot of users that are using this keyword, and it's pretty safe to remove it. I think this is the first time that we are removing a keyword, so we need to monitor the user reaction from that. But we've taken all the precaution we could take in order to avoid any problems and impact to our user. The second issue is actually the second and the third issue all involve the Jwt token. There are major changes that are happening to users that are using the Jwt token. Now, the Jwt token is the token that allow user to integrate with third-party and cloud providers, such as Vault, Microsoft Azure, and AWS. The first change is making the Jwt token OpenID Connect compatible, and OpenID Connect is a standard in the industry which allow user to connect with more cloud providers. And up until today, if you look at our documentation, you see that we have three types of the Jwt token. We have the CI job Jwt, and we have V1 and V2. Now V2 is, as you can see, it goes in an alpha state, and the V2 is the OpenID Connect. So this is the improved token. And basically what we are doing today, whenever users are using the secret keyword, they actually use the CI job Jwt token. And what we plan to do in this iteration is basically replace behind the scene the Jwt with V2. So by default, the token that we'll use will be this one, and it will be OpenID Connect. Obviously involves some breaking changes to our users that are integrating with Vault, and we also have an issue that we plan to properly document what are the changes that our users need to do in order to reconfigure and reconnect their Vault integration. Basically, they need to configure the issue claim, but we'll have the proper documentation available for user. The second one is also involved the Jwt token, and this is even a bigger change that what I've previously mentioned. Right now, that token is also available to your pipeline to any job, and this is not a desirable experience. Basically, this token is a variable, and we are injecting variables across all jobs in your pipeline. Now, since this is a token that needs to be secured, we don't want it to be available to all jobs, because all it takes is one compromised job, and your token could be leaked outside. So the idea of this issue is, first of all, the token should not be exposed by default. And users that are using this token for a specific job will need to opt it in their YAML configuration. And we are talking about the syntax. And in addition to that, we want to allow users to configure their audience claim. The audience claim is the recipient, who is receiving, which external service is receiving the token. Up until now, we didn't have a way to configure the audience claim, and user would need to disable the audience claim, which means that they could interact with any cloud provider, but it's not a secure workflow. You need to mention, you need to specify which third party you want to integrate to. So those are the two changes that are happening in this issue, and I think we do have a convention that we want to use. Basically, whenever someone wants to use a token, then when they configure the job name, they need to specify secret, and then JWT, and then configure the audience claim. Okay, this will ensure that, first of all, the token will be available to the job, and with this audience claim that we have here. Lastly, another security issue that which is kind of a bug is that whenever we have a variable that is type file and we assign it to another variable, then the variable that was assigned is not a type file. And this is a problem because if someone is echoing that file, then instead of printing the file path, we are printing the file content, which is it's not secure because in a lot of cases our files actually contain password, and we don't want users to be able to echo and print those passwords in their log. And there are more cases. So basically, the idea is that if you are assigning a type file variable to a variable, that variable will also become type file. So we'll have like a consistent behavior across our variable. And you can see this example here. This is a type file, and we are assigning it to a variable. And when we are echoing that file, you can see that we are printing hello, and this is the content of the file instead of the path of the file. So this is what we are fixing, basically. And as I mentioned, besides that, we are going to roll over all the issues from 14.10 that we didn't have a chance to work on. I think I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to pass it over to Nadia. She's going to talk about the scope of work for UX.
Thanks, Dov. All right, let's dive in. So in 15.0, we will be continuing mainly our work on the CI/CD component catalog. This will be the biggest effort that I will be taking on. So you can see this issue is to define a proposal for the private CI/CD component catalog MVC. So we spent already the past 2 milestones exploring a visionary direction for the CI/CD catalog. We've had lots of discussions with our team. We've gathered feedback from within GitLab, and we're starting to converge on a vision that we agree on. There's many questions that we were able to answer and define some paths forward for how to solve those problems in the long run and for the MVC. So now is a good time for us to start scoping down and refining an MVC proposal. So that's what we're going to do in 15.0. It might take us a bit longer than a milestone. We'll see how it goes. And our goal is to create a proposal that could become our MVC iteration with the goal of eventually dogfooding that solution within GitLab. There are some other issues that we'll be working on that are also quite exciting. There's this long-standing issue to surface the used custom variables for manual jobs. So there's already a proposal here, but there's been some more discussions in the issue. So I just want to make sure that we consider any outstanding questions, refine the proposal so we can move it forward and resolve this problem for our users. The main problem here being that when you use variables for a manual job, when you run your manual job, those variables are not surfaced in the job run. So there's no way for you to know exactly what variables are being used there. So we want to surface those variables in the UI, which would be very useful for anyone running manual jobs. Another highly upvoted issue is allowing you to automatically run the pipeline in a merge request when you remove the draft prefix from the merge request name. So I will just be revisiting the discussions in this issue to see what are the options available to us. We're considering different solutions, from making it automatic to adding some kind of setting that you would be able to configure for your project. Let's say you could say, I want the pipelines to run automatically in my MRs if I remove the prefix or not. So maybe you would be able to control it. So we will be working on a proposal for this in this milestone as well. For this particular issue, we will be solving a problem of expanding variables with the $sign. So, well, it's not necessarily a problem. It's a feature, but it's a problem in some cases when it's not the desired behavior. So sometimes you're using a password that contains the $sign and you don't want the expansion to happen. But this is currently the default behavior that we offer. And while there's a workaround for this, where you can use $2 signs to prevent expansion, it's not really intuitive. So we learned that it's not the desired behavior to expand such variables by default. So we're looking into allowing you to define raw variables. So when you add a new variable in the CI/CD variable settings, you would be able to say, expand this variable or don't expand this variable. So in 15.0, we will be validating the solution with GitLab users. We want to see how it works, how they react, whether we can further improve the UI copy and small things like that. And another issue that I will be working on is showing all jobs in the pipeline graph. Currently, if you have a stage that has more than 100 jobs, we only show the first 100 jobs in the pipeline graph in the pipeline page. It's done mainly for performance reasons, and there's currently no pagination in the pipeline graph. And we want to introduce that. It might be some kind of lazy. Sorry, can you hear me, Dov?
Yeah, you were breaking for a second, but it's okay.
Yeah, okay. My headphones connected. So yeah, we will be adding loading to the pipeline graph and finally showing all of your jobs. So if you have a stage with more than 100 jobs, you will be able to see them all and load them in a way that doesn't affect the performance of the pipeline graph. So yeah, if you have any comments on the problems that I've just described, feel free to jump into those issues and ping Dove and I, or really anyone from our team, if you want to provide some feedback or ask questions there.
Awesome. Thank you, Nadia, and thanks everyone. As always, if you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to reach out to me, Nadia, or anyone from our team. Hope you find this recording useful, and thank you and bye-bye.